Today, we're going to make Gaussian Splats using Nerfstudio. That's right, they soft launched Gaussian Splatting. What does that mean? It means they launched the code to their main branch so you can install it on your PC and you can start making Gaussian Splatting and not have the same licensing restrictions of the original project. Because this is an open source project, you can more easily license it for your own commercial uses. So if you are new to Nerfstudio and you have not installed it yet, please look at the description below to this video where I linked how to install Nerfstudio. This video just showed you how to run it once you have it installed, but this should be pretty easy to follow through. And if you've used Nerfstudio before, this is going to be super easy because it's only a few different lines of code. Well, let's jump into my computer and start making Gaussian Splats. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do when we create Gaussian Splats with Nerfstudio is to follow this custom guide, the unofficial guide that I have made in GitHub. Again, I'll make sure that's linked in the description to this video, but this is a forked project from the main code. So do not use the code that I have at the top here, but the instructions are great. And I was able to reuse some of Nerfstudio's instructions. And this guide will specifically just walk you through how to install and run Gaussian Splats Nerfstudio, not how to run anything else. But I'm also going to skip over the installation as I created a separate video for installing Nerfstudio. And keep in mind that if you have installed it in the past, let's say a couple months ago, prior to 2024, you most likely will need to reinstall Nerfstudio to get Gaussian Splats. So just keep that in mind, but if you're installing it for the first time, watch that video. Reinstalling it, that video is also great. So I'm just going to skip over this section because that is for installing. But so now we have it installed. We're at the point we want to train our first Gaussian Splat. And so if you're new or you're not new, some of this may be pretty easy. You might need to skip over, but we're going to walk it through as if you've never used Nerfstudio and you're creating your first Gaussian Splat. So again, the first thing you always do when you run Nerfstudio is you actually have to run it through command prompt. So I'm just going to search for, type in CMD, I'll bring up command prompt, and I'm going to make this a little big. And I'll probably just go back and forth between my instructions, which maybe I'll put on the left side of my screen, like so, and my command prompt on the right side, and we'll work through it that way. So if I can make this, there we go, a little bigger for you. So, okay, here we go. So we're going to, first we're going to go to Conda and we're going to activate our Nerfstudio session. And if, again, you're new to GitHub, you can click this little button here, it'll copy it. And we're just going to hit Control V to paste it in. And now we're in the Nerfstudio environment that we created when we installed the software. But we also need to be working within our Nerfstudio folder. So I need a change directory to Nerfstudio, and that might have been installed somewhere else for you, but most likely it's in your root folder in Nerfstudio if you followed my directions. For this specific training, I'm going to start out by just using some of the sample data that they provided. And to do that, you're just going to take this NS download data in Nerfstudio, just copy that, you're going to paste it in, and it'll download the data. So if I hit enter, you'll see it'll download a zip and it'll unpack it into your Nerfstudio folder. And I'll show you how to find that once it's complete. So there it is downloading. Keep in mind, this is kind of large, but what it is a bunch of photos. I'll show you what that looks like. And when it's done, it should look like this on your computer. So I'll show you that in a second. Okay, now it's downloaded. I can now find that data. If I open up Windows Explorer and I go to my Nerfstudio folder, you will now see that there's a data folder. I already had some other projects in there, but there's one called Nerfstudio. That's the Nerfstudio data, and then poster. And then within that, there's a folder of images like so, and I can kind of scrub through them. These are suboptimal images. As you can see, they're kind of low resolution. They're not the best, but they're great for just making sure what you train the first time works and it's not your imagery, but that everything's just working correctly. So I always say use their test data first, and then after we've trained the test data, at the end of this video, I will also show you how to prepare a custom data set as well. Okay, so now I have that downloaded. We're pretty much we're almost where we need to be to start training. So again, you have this folder of images. You should have some cool map results, some of these camera JSON and transform JSON, and we're just gonna say we're just gonna run the training. So again, it's all command prompt, and anytime you want to run training within Nerfstudio, you just type in ns train and then the type of training. And so for this, it's the Gaussian splatting. So if I copy and paste that in, and say we're going to train the data using Gaussian splatting, and then where's that data? So it's for you, it should be in this same place as where it installed. It'll be this. You're giving a flag to say, okay, the data is in data Nerfstudio poster. So if you look at this, you'll see we're data Nerfstudio poster, and we're already in this folder working. So I'm gonna hit enter, and it will start training the Gaussian splat. Do keep in mind, if you hit enter and it's not doing anything right away, it's probably loading up all the data. Just be patient. So here it is. It's loaded up, and there's all these parameters that we can change later. I'm not including that in this video purposely. I'm just showing you the basics. This will train to 30,000 steps. But later on, we can have an advanced video on how to change some of these parameters. Okay, so now it's going. It's going to start training. You'll start seeing this data cascade across your screen. That's telling you the percentage that it's done in estimated time. So I have an RTX 3090 Ti. With this scene, it's only going to take, I found it took about 9-10 minutes in total. So not very long. It could go slower or faster depending on what GPU configuration you have. And so if I go down here, we want to launch the viewer, and then we can see this training in real time. At the bottom of this screen, it'll say viewer beta, and it'll say, for me, it says 0.0.0.0, and then the 7007. There is some sort of error in this system that some people are running into, where it's not actually showing you the correct address to go find this. So I'm actually going to show you how to find the right one. You basically need to put in your IP address for those zeros. So I'm going to go look those up on my computer. I included instructions here how to find them, but it's pretty easy. You just go to your network settings. You're going to go to your Wi-Fi and then go to details. And I'm not going to show you the details of mine, but I will go find them really quick. Okay, so now I've looked mine up. I'm just going to start a new tab in Chrome. I'm going to make this full screen, and I'm just going to type it in, and it's going to launch the viewer. And we can see this data being trained in real time, which is fun. So if you just let it sit, you'll notice it'll continuously update. I do want to point out, though, if you watch it training, you'll notice that your time will, for me, it doubled or almost doubled. So it does take a lot longer for it to render and train at the same time. You can change how fast. I can say fast training speed, and what it does is it gives you a lower res preview, or you can slow down the training speed and see it a little bit better. I actually just like to close this all together and just let it run and come back later. I also want to point out on this as well that you can pause the training at any time. You can hide the training cameras. There's all sorts of things you can do, but just let this run. So I'm going to close the viewer because I already have this trained on my computer just to speed things up. I'm actually going to close this whole command prompt window. If you hit Control-C, that will also stop it. But for the purpose of this training, I'm just going to bring up command prompt again, a fresh one. Sometimes it makes life a little easier. And anytime you bring up a command prompt, I just want to tell you again, you need to type in conda activate Nerfstudio and change directories to Nerfstudio, like so. So you're back to square one. Make this a little bigger for you. And if I already have finished running, or let's say I stopped the training, want to go back to a checkpoint and keep training, you have two different options. For me, I'm just going to launch the viewer on one that I've already trained. So I'm just going to basically copy part of this, the NS viewer load config, which is saying, hey, I want to launch the viewer, and then I need a configuration file from the training. And anytime you start training, it's going to put those results in an output folder. So if I go to Nerfstudio, you'll have an outputs folder. And then there's that poster project. I'm going to go to the Gaussian Splatting, and I've ran it twice. So I'm going to run the first one here, and there's my config file. I'm just going to copy, right click and hit copy as path, paste that in. And then one more flag I need to add off the instructions is this. You want to make sure you're launching the beta viewer, which is the visualization. We want to use the viewer beta, or else it won't launch correctly. You cannot actually view results in the original viewer. Okay, now it's loaded. Again, you'll see the wrong, for me, I keep seeing the wrong numbers, but that's fine. I'm just going to bring up the correct one, load it. So now this is a fully trained scene. Here it goes, it pops in. The first thing I want to notice, it doesn't always look great. That's because the max resolution is set at 512 resolution. We want to push that up to 2048, and now things look really good. They should move really fast on your browser. And again, this is not the best example. This was just a great training set that you didn't have to worry about. Is it going to work? Is it not? You can see your training camera positions. You can click on any of those and jump to them like so. And there's all sorts of things you can do along with that. I'm just going to walk you through the viewer really quick as well, because this might be new to you. You can also look at everything in a depth model. Or when you're actually in that depth model, you can change what type of colors you want to look at. To me, it's more fun than anything. Go back to RGB. And then you can do a split screen, so we can see half and half. These are just ways to like evaluate your results. They're not necessarily going to be useful for everyone. And you notice if I move my picture here, you can also like change the split. You can invert all kinds of things. So just play around with that if you want. And then you can also crop your view. So I can crop down to, let's say, just that chair. And again, you can play with these values. You can move this cropping tool here if you just want to say render out a crop part of this scene, which is nice. But if you uncheck it, it goes right back to the full scene. So if I go back to my directions, I talk about exporting results. There's two things you can export from this viewer. We can export a video through the render tab. We can also export the Gaussian Splats itself, which actually isn't done through the viewer. I'm going to show you how to do that, because right now it's not supported in this viewer. So let me just quickly show you how to make a video. This is not going to be the best, but it's just going to give you an idea. So the first thing you do is you need to add some keyframes. So let's say I'm further out. I'm going to go around that poster like so. Just start like way up here. Add a keyframe. I'm going to come in lower. Add another keyframe, even lower, like so. Maybe I kind of want to almost pause there and then pull out. And what it's going to do is it's going to start to add, it's going to start to add an animation path as I zoom in back in here. And you see it kind of is this Bezier curve. And if I want to play around with different things, you can play around with that spline. You can loop it. You can move your keyframes around. You can get crazy with it. But if you want to then get a preview, hit the preview render and then play. And so you get an idea of like what that looks like. So again, that wasn't great. That's fine. And you can change the length between transitions, your frame rate, how long, that'll all dictate how long the video ends up being. But once you're happy with that video, and I'm just kind of showing you like the worst of the worst here, you give it a name. So let's call it poster, and then hit generate command, and it'll give you the command prompt you need to create that. So let's get Control C, and then I'm going to add this to Notepad because I usually end up losing that when I close this. So I'm going to make sure I don't lose that. So I can actually exit that preview. And so then I want to render that. But before I render that, I just really quickly want to point out again, there's another tab, export. I haven't really played with these, but I'm not sure these work, but a point cloud is not actually what you think it is. It's not the PLY for a Gaussian splat that you can then use in Unreal Engine or Unity. That I'll show you how to do in just a minute. You can try these. I haven't actually tried them myself, but they're not actual splats you're exporting then in the export. So going back to render again, I got that code. So I'm actually going to close this viewer, and then I want to stop the processing here. So I hit Control C, which interrupts and also then messes up your copy. So I'm just going to go here, I'm going to copy this whole entire string, paste it in, hit enter. And now it's going to render that video that we'd set up into my Nerfstudio folder. And there will be a render folder. So if I go to, not outputs, Nerfstudio, you'll see there's a renders folder, and we should see a new subfolder show up in just a second. I find on my computer it renders at about 15 to 18 frames per second. So if you set up a 5-second video, it'll take 10 seconds to render. Not too bad. And so now I got this poster, which we can watch. So not the best video, but just showing you how it works. Super simple, get creative. I would love to see what you guys create. Make sure you link anything in this YouTube video to comments, because I'd love to see it and repost it for you guys. So at this point, there's not much left we can do, except for a lot of you guys will want to be able to export that PLY. So generate a Gaussian splat file. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to generate these Gaussian splats. What all you have to do is this ns export Gaussian splat load config. I'm going to copy that. I did notice I made a mistake in my GitHub, which I'll update before you guys actually use this. I left out the U. So it says Gaussian splat. And then I got to find that config file. So again, that was in my outputs poster, Gaussian splatting. And then my latest one, I'm just going to right click and hit copy as path, just like we did earlier in the tutorial. And then I also need a -- output -dir again, which is right from the instructions here. And after you do that, you just have to say where you want to output to. So we're already in the Nerfstudio folder. So I'm just going to say it's going to be in data /Nerfstudio /data, or you could pick a different folder and copy its path and put it in there. But that's just, oops, not data poster. That's just going to put it in the folder that I processed everything in, and hit enter, and it will start processing a Gaussian splat file that we can then open in Unreal Engine or Unity or some other third party. And this only takes a few seconds. Okay, so now it's done. Okay, so if I go to Nerfstudio, if I go to data, Nerfstudio poster, you can see there's that point cloud in there. It's in that data folder. I could have put in the outputs folder as well. Either one would have worked. And so there's a 14 megabyte file. It's not a very big scene. I could open that in Unreal Engine or Unity, and I have some other videos, or you guys can figure that out pretty easily. But there you go. So pretty easy. If you go back to my instruction set here, there's not too much left. I do say you can learn more about exporting options here by just, if you do -- help on any of these, it'll give you basically different options. And then as well as modifying your training configuration. So again, if you want to train to a different amount of steps or anything like that, if you type in this ns train --h, let me just put that in so you can see what that looks like. They'll give you a bunch of these called hyperparameters that you can then go change your processing options, which is really helpful if you want to fiddle around with things. But first, I suggest just running a simple model first and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so now let's load that up. You'll see there's a ton of different things that can be chose for optimization. It can be overwhelming, but if you kind of look through here, you might be able to pick out a few that that might be helpful for you as well. So as you look through here, check that out. Most of these things are probably something that you actually won't need or use, but you can. Here we go. Here's more. We want to look for the arguments, where you can go and, steps per eval image, things like that, max number iterations. Those are the sort of things you'll probably want to change and play around with. Okay, so now we've made a Gaussian splat. You may, if you're brand new to Nerfstudio, you might ask, how do I use my own imagery? I'm going to walk you through that. If you've ran Nerfstudio before, my guess is that you already know how to use your own data. So you can kind of skip over this part of the video. But for you who want to use your own imagery, we're just going to walk through this really quickly. We're going to use the video method. If you click on any one of these, it'll basically tell you how to run it. And, like which ones are fastest. When they say these are slow, it's because they have to run ColMap, which takes a while and can take a while. So I'll probably do some shortcuts, but there's these other, apps and things you can use to kind of skip some of that. So if I click on the video, it's going to take us to the Nerfstudio documentation page. And the first thing it'll tell you need to do is you need ColMap and FFmpeg. And those are really easy to install. So for ColMap, I'm just going to open that link in a new tab. We're going to go to the download page, which I think is down here, like so. You're just going to download this pre-release version. That's the one they recommend. And if I go down here, you know what? 3.9 was released 14 hours ago as of doing this. So I'm going to skip over that because it just has source code. We want to actually use the pre-built binaries. So we're going to probably use 3.8 instead. Yes, so we want to go down here to 3.8, look at the assets, and get this ColMap 3.8 Windows CUDA.zip. It's going to download. It'll take a minute here, being a large file. As you can see, I've already done it before here recently, but if I just take this zip file, I want to basically extract it to my PC. Extract all. I'll put this in my downloads. And so if I go open that up, you'll see there's this folder that you've extracted. And I just want to cut and paste this somewhere that you will know where it is. So I always like to put it in my root folder, which for me is JONAT. It's just kind of like your root user folder, like so. I'm gonna paste it in here. It looks like I already pasted in there, so I'm not actually gonna replace anything. But now we need to add it to your computer path so it knows how to find this. So you just go to search here, and you're gonna click Edit System Environment Variables, like so. Go to this Environment Variables button, and then you'll have a system path down here. You want to go and you want to edit that, and then you're gonna go add a new line telling it where ColMap is. So if I go find that ColMap folder right here, I'm just going to open it, and I'm going to copy this top line out, go back to my environment variables editor, click new, paste that in, hit OK. For me, I'm not actually going to add this because I already have, but you're basically telling the computer, here it is. Here's the folder with all the code. Go ahead and use that. So pretty easy. Don't build it from source. It'll take a lot more effort. So I'm going to close that up. And then the second one, you need to download FFmpeg. This works just the same. You want to go and just make sure you download the Windows executable file. Either one of these works. I went and downloaded the essentials. You can get the full, either one works. And so for me, again, I think I just did that prior to this. Yes, this FFmpeg, you'll end up with this folder as well called FFmpeg, and you want to take that folder and add it to your path as well. So once you've extracted it, you copy in here, and you want to you want to go to the bin folder for FFmpeg, which you'll copy and paste. I'll make sure I add that to my GitHub repo as a gotcha. But if you go and you copy this out and then go to edit your system variables like so, go down to your path again, and you're just going to hit new and again, copy and paste that. Again, I'm not going to add that because I already have. And now your system recognizes both those software. You don't have to actually like run through a traditional installer or build any source code. Okay, so now once you've done that, now you need a video or photos for the method I'm about to show you. A video, the video I'm going to use, if I just open up my PC and go to my Nerfstudio folder, I have a data folder and this selfie folder. So I'm actually going to delete everything in here because I've already pre-processed this once. But we have here is a video of me that my wife took. She just walked basically a loop around me, very slow, very steady. That sun flare was not great, but it ended up a cool effect in the end. And that's all you want to do. Just kind of like walk around a subject, and you can do multiple you can go up and down at different elevations, which is great. And just make sure you're kind of far back, because I want to get the building and everything else. I want to get the trees, and that's it. So we're going to turn that video into the data you can use for training. And so I have it in here in Nerfstudio data selfie, and you're just going to run this ns process data like so. So if I go back to my command prompt, just going to make sure you're in your Nerfstudio environment still, in the Nerfstudio folder, and you're going to do ns process data. And then what type of data am I processing? So images or video. I'm going to pick video. So just again, put in video. Then I need the data and data path. So I'm going to copy that data. And then the data path was, for me, it was data. So here, go here. It's this data selfie. So / selfie. And then you actually need this video name as well. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. I could have just copied this file path as well in Explorer. That probably would have been faster. And then I need an output directory as well. And I always like this to be kind of the same folder. So data selfie, like so. Hit enter. And now it's going to start the processing. So it'll say my video had 1,851 frames. It's going to extract 309 images. When you use your own images, you want between 150 to at least 300 images. And then it'll start processing the data. And this could take a while. So if it's not a very long video and you do nice loops, good clean images, this might take 5-10 minutes. This might take an hour. Might take even longer depending on how many images and how many pixels. So this is just going to run. So now I see it's running ColeMap. I'm not going to let it go in this video because it's just going to do it itself. So if I just going to kill that process, because I don't care to watch that whole thing, but you'll see now it created all these folders. It made smaller versions of the images. It extracted images and then made half resolution, quarter, and eighth resolution. And then ColeMap, when it's done running, will have these different files that you'll need for making Gaussian splats. So I'm going to actually go to a different one called Weatherford, which is the same video, but it's done processing. So once it's done, you should see all this data in here as well. And so now that's ready. So now if I want to go, once it's done, I want to train this data, all I have to do then is go to ns train Gaussian splats, splatting, like I have in the instructions, and then data, and then it would be this folder. So I can just copy the path to that folder and hit enter, and it'll start training on that prepared data. So pretty easy. I hope I didn't go over to that too fast, but it's all in here pretty good, pretty well described. So you got the process data, then train, but they show you how to train a Nerf, not a Gaussian splat. And it's pretty easy. And they do have some help here on installing ColeMap from source. I would not do that. I would use the pre-built binaries and just add it to your path. So I hope this all makes sense. But it's that simple to make Gaussian splats. Very easy, and I should be pretty quick once you kind of get everything set up and ready to go. Well, there you have it. That's how you train your first Gaussian splats using Nerfstudio. It's super simple, not that much different than doing the Nerfacto method or any other sort of Nerf using Nerfstudio. So if this is not a new software to you, this should have been pretty easy for you to follow along. If you do have questions about how this works, please ask questions in the video comments. Also, I have that GitHub repository. You can ask questions in there. But I always say if it's something that's truly going on weird, go ask on the Discord or go ask on the original Gaussian Splatting project, because there's people who really know how to troubleshoot things in there as well. So again, if you like this video, you make something interesting, please post it on social and then link that social post on the comments. I'll be happy to look at it, repost it, give you feedback. This is great. And I hope you guys dive into the world of Gaussian splatting. And I will be producing another video on how to run Nerfstudio's just normal nerfs, their Nerfacto method as well. I'll probably put that video up here eventually. If it's not up, it's because I haven't produced it yet. Anyways, thanks and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.